takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to FBC Radio Live. It's Monday. It's December the 27th. That's right, according to my watch, and my watch is always right. Yeah, that's right. Christmas weekend is over. We're heading towards 2022, and Week 16 is almost completely in the books. We have one more game tonight between the Dolphins and some team. No, obviously we're here mostly to talk about Week 16 to kind of wrap up what we saw. And John, I'm going to sit here and say I'm glad we didn't do a show on Friday, and I'm glad I didn't put my picks out on the air because I did not have a good day. Let's put it that way. I missed on a few of them.
Well, one I did get right was Buffalo over the Patriots. I mean, on my Twitter handle on Sundays or whatever the games are played, I put out my picks, and I liked Buffalo yesterday. +1, so I'm saying they're going to win the game. I thought they would come into Gillette Stadium and win, but I went like 4-4 against the spread. But there were some upsets yesterday. Obviously, when you see what happens with the Chargers and the Texans, that was a major upset. A few other games, and then there were just some blowouts that you just wanted to have the network go to another game. For instance, Pittsburgh and Kansas City. I mean, let's keep Pittsburgh off of the national stage at this point because they are brutal to watch.
Yeah.
Right? Because TJ Watt's great, but he's always hurt. He's on the sideline. And Ben Roethlisberger, it's like watching an old timers day.
Yeah,
so
that fumble at the end. What was the end of the first half where it was they were trying that reverse? Yeah, that was just bad. I mean, I think, and it's very important to remember. And look, I'm not just defending Ben Roethlisberger, the character. I mean, I know there's people have plenty of issues with the things he's done off the field, but this is a great quarterback that just got old. I mean, this is what happens to everyone except Tom Brady, apparently. So this isn't and shouldn't be looked at as his. Oh, look at it! How bad Ben Roethlisberger. No, he was a great quarterback for a very long period of time, and it's just at the end of the line for him. And I can't imagine. I don't think anyone expects him to be back with Pittsburgh, let alone any other team, because again, I don't think I just think it's over for him. And congrats to him. I mean, he has an unbelievable career. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame someday. But right now, it is not good. And what we saw yesterday was that was an opportunity. And I said it, and again, this is one of the games I was wrong, John. I will admit, I did pick the Steelers, not for any sort of logic. It was mostly motivated by my rooting interest, but also the idea that maybe, just maybe, Pittsburgh in this last hurrah for Ben Roethlisberger was going to be able to pull a game like this out of their rear end. And it was very evident early on that was not going to happen because the Chiefs defense just dominated this game from start to finish. The Steelers had no answer until the game was over and they decided they want to celebrate. And first of all, it doesn't that sum up a Mike Tomlin team to a T? You know what I mean? Being down 30 points and making it important to celebrate after finally putting some points or making a catch. Like, I understand the game's supposed to be fun. Lose with some dignity here. Like, I mean, you just got run out of town, and you're gonna sit there and celebrate being down 20 whatever points it was. So,
we'll get a taunting penalty after a first down.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I think the score was whatever. It was 28-3, or I forget what the score was because I was like, please switch this game. Let me. And then you had Seattle, Chicago playing in the snow. I'm not as technically advanced as you, so I'm stuck with whatever we see. And it was just capped by last night. That was just an absolute joke.
Yeah, that was bad.
In Washington, and there's no better front-running team in the league than Dallas. Like when they look good and they're clicking on all cylinders, they look like the best team in football. The problem is if you get them in a tight game, I think you can beat them.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's why, like last night, it's like, okay, I'm not really like it's impressive. I mean, you put up 56 points. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not. Sometimes like those heavy scoring games they don't really tell you too much because it seems to be more or less a perfect storm of circumstances. Washington just obviously did not show up. I mean, what was that one play where what's his face should have been tackled maybe for a 5-yard gain, and he basically ran in between every defender down to
Right.
almost the goal line. So that game was just chalk it up as just one of those. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm with you. I like as impressive as Dallas was. It's like I don't have faith in them. Going up against teams like Tampa or Green Bay, when if the cards are against them, if the chips are stacked. I guess with the poker references here, but no, yeah. So it was kind of a mess. What was it? Chicago. I mean, give credit where credit's due. Chicago won that game over Seattle. I'm not that impressed because, well, I'm not a big. We talked about Seattle to quite some length. Um, Obviously, I think the most disappointing and head scratching loss has to be the Chargers, right? This
Oh,
weekend, easily,
absolutely.
right? No doubt about it.
No, I mean, that's a game you go win, you get the 9 wins, one more win over your last two, and in theory, you're in the playoffs. But that's the Chargers, right? I mean, they're just like, they can beat Kansas City in Kansas City, and then, 2 months later, go into Houston and kind of lose handily, right?
Well,
I
think
mean,
think think about
Greg
now
Burkhead,
how important
pretty much,
and how dumb that decision was, Brandon Staley going back a couple weeks to give that game away against Kansas City. I mean,
Mhm.
the ramifications of that. You give away a game that you should have won. You should have won. Kansas City
Absolutely.
had no
Yep.
business being in that game still to that point until you just let them hang around way too long. I mean, when it was the fourth quarter and it was still a 1 point game, it's like, what are you doing, San Diego? Whatever. San Diego, San
Oh,
Mateo, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to give them the respect of actually calling them by their real
I saw the
location.
pretty reference to San
Yeah,
Mateo.
you like that?
I
Well, it's the only other sand name that I could think of off the top of my head. So
I'm going to put in Butte Junior
San
College.
Jose, San
Yeah.
Andreas, if that's an actual real place and not just in the GTA game. I don't know.
They should move to San
What
Antonio. They
what's
could use a
what's what was that place that Rose Nyland was from Golden Girls?
it was San Clemente.
Something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know. Something along those lines. But
somewhere in right. Yeah,
something like whatever it is. Someone hopefully. I bet you Joel knows. Joel's
so, so all that stuff.
he's gonna chime in here in a minute if he's listening. I hope he is because he knows stuff like this. But the point is, I don't really care. I mean, Brandon Staley cost this team not only a division, but could very well cost them a nice playoff run because look, now they're going to be a wild card team, and maybe they are the best of the wild card teams. Who knows? I'm pretty certain that on their best day, the Chargers, they're probably the best wild card team. You just don't know if you're going to get their best day.
Over the Colts, I would say the
Yes,
Colts
yes,
would be
because they do have a better quarterback.
they do have, yeah.
I mean, despite and again, I know Justin Herbert, and rightfully so, is getting some slack because he's had some head scratching moments. All it does, John, is put him right on pace with Patrick Mahomes. Actually, in fact, he's still had a better season than Patrick Mahomes. So to kind of put things into perspective, quarterbacks are going to struggle, and we're both Justin Herbert fans, so we're not going to sit here and just pom wave him because he look, he had a bad game yesterday. There was a few weeks ago where he had a pretty bad game. I don't think again though you don't lose that game against the Chiefs a few weeks ago because of the play of the players. I mean, obviously you have to execute certain things, but it's hard to execute when your coach is tying one hand behind your back, and that's what I believe Brandon Staley did for that team, and I think it had a ripple effect on how um, they performed in certain situations throughout the rest of that game. So, but at the end of the day, Justin Herbert has had some bumps in the road for sure, and this past weekend or yesterday was one of them.
Yeah, and again, I look give Houston some credit. I mean, it looks like they were tanking at the beginning of the year. They don't have Deshaun Watson, and yet I
Well,
think they've won
we
4 games this year.
have said over these last couple of weeks that
Give them
Houston,
credit.
yeah, give them some. They are playing some pretty good football, and it doesn't mean they're a good team. It just means that they're capable.
It's like Detroit, right? Detroit's always in games for the most part. I mean, Detroit either's losing like a one-score game or getting absolutely blown out, nothing in between. Give the coaches credit. Give David Culley credit, I guess. I mean, they've won 4 games, which is like 3 more than I thought they were going to win, and they have some nice wins over the Chargers, and they also beat Tennessee at Tennessee. So yeah, I mean those teams give them credit. And usually you see this in the NFL though, right, Ian? Because these guys are all fighting for their jobs. It's not like basketball or even baseball where you get guaranteed contracts and the last few weeks of the season teams may mail it in because it's like let's get to the off season. In football, everybody's got to perform because what we see them do is on tape, and some of them are free agents that want a contract for next year, or stay on the team. Coaching staffs want to stay together. So, in football, you'll still get a pretty honest effort, down the stretch. 2 years ago, Miami came into Gillette Stadium as like a 17-point underdog and beat the Patriots. That was a shocker, which cost the Patriots a bye. And give Miami credit for that, for showing up and playing hard.
Yeah, and look, that's the beauty of football. Any given Sunday. That's why, if it, thinking about this Patriots Bills game, it's based on the reaction from Bills media and fans and stuff like that. You would think that they didn't just match the Patriots record. You know what I mean? You would think that they had 2 games up on this team. And look, the Patriots. I think we've given a lot of credit to Mac Jones, and rightfully so. He has struggled a lot the last few weeks, and certainly I'm not going to. I would say he's certainly shown more rookie moments over the last few weeks, so more indecisiveness. Whereas at the beginning of the season, we were both praising, how much he protected the football. Now that doesn't, I'm a pretty reasonable person when it comes to observing what I see, and I'm not going to sit here and say the ship is sinking because at the end of the day, the Patriots are still, you have to figure they're still right kind of where you expected them to be. This was a team that had a chance to win a division or have a good shot at a division. They still do. I mean, Buffalo could go out and lose next week, and it might be the funniest thing that's ever happened because it'll be I don't know. Let's just put it this way: it'll be very enjoyable among Patriots fan and media. Well, look, they lost to the Jaguars. I mean, like this is a team that, again, seems to have won their Super Bowl by beating the Patriots yesterday. But at the end of the day, the Patriots, they're a team that coming off a season in which you were transitioning, no real quarterback. You've seen what Cam Newton's been doing this year, and certainly I was one of his bigger defenders in terms of having him given an opportunity. Not that he had this crazy ability, just I thought he had an opportunity or should have gotten an opportunity prior to all this. It didn't happen, and very clearly it looks like he, much like Ben Roethlisberger, is kind of on the way out. But Mac Jones went through some struggles, and he deserves some criticism, and I would like to think that he's going to learn from this stuff. I mean, we have to sit back and realize that this is a rookie. This is a team that may be exceeding expectations a little bit, but they're certainly not performing under expectations, and I think that's the mentality that unfortunately a lot of people that cover this team have when you lose a game to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, look, you've lost back-to-back games to the Colts and Bills. Is anyone going to sit here and say that either of those teams are bad teams?
Oh no, no. In fact, I think on their best day, they're very, very dangerous teams because they both play defense, and that's the denominator here where Mac Jones has struggled the last.
And they can run the ball too.
And they both can run the football. Buffalo with its quarterback, and obviously Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor. So sure, yeah. I mean, these are good defenses that Mac Jones has gone up against. And again, yesterday the weather wasn't really a factor. It was a little windy. Wasn't overly cold, and that's going to play into this because someone who played high school football in Jacksonville at Alabama, so now he's trying to adapt to play in colder weather with conditions being a factor. So yeah, I mean, if they make the wild card, which I think they will, they should beat Jacksonville. We'll get them to 10 wins, and we'll get them in the playoffs. If they go down and beat Miami, then they put all the pressure on the Buffalo Bills to win the division. Atlanta, a dome team going to Buffalo in January, that's not a real good situation for the Falcons. And then the Jets go there the final week of the season. But again, we've seen crazy things happen. I just referenced Miami beating the Patriots 2 years ago.
I mean, you don't have to look any further than a month and a half ago, and Jacksonville beating Buffalo. So,
right, exactly.
So to me, I think the Patriots have had an impressive run here. I mean, you win 7 games in a row. You go during that stretch and during that first part of the season, they're 7-1 in the conference. You know what I mean? They have a good conference record. They've beaten a lot of the good playoff teams. They have uh, wins over some of the other fringe playoff teams and some of the other teams that are actually in the playoffs. So this isn't a colossal failure as it's being framed by some, which again is head scratching, but not necessarily surprising based on just how the media brigade has kind of treated this whole season. Um, but I think at the end of the day, you're looking at the positives, and I think big picture, there's a lot to like about Mac Jones. There's certainly things he's going to have to improve on, and I think down the stretch here we've seen some of the limitations. Not that they're permanent limitations, but I think they're just growing pains. And if you don't expect that, or if you treat them as a finality in his development, then I think you're just completely off base because, well, again, I must add, he is a rookie. It's not a mistake. I mean, excuse me, it's not an excuse, but it's called context, and realizing that the kid may not have all the requisite abilities or knowledge of the game of football to succeed at every level. Like, someone asked me yesterday, is this a playoff team with Tom Brady? Absolutely. I mean, first of all, any team that has Tom Brady on it is a playoff team. We've seen that over the course of 20 years, but I think you see the difference. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's very evident between a great quarterback like this Patriots defense, and people are railing on it right now. This is the same type of defense they've had for 15 years. They were maddening. They had talent. They had times where they looked great. But then there's times where they couldn't get off the field on third down. And people think it's a surprise now. It's only being magnified because you don't have a quarterback on the other side of the field that makes up for that. And we've seen this Patriots defense, and obviously I get in these conversations a lot. Talking about, oh well, Tom Brady's always had a great defense. Well, no, he hasn't. I mean, they had some really good defenses. In those first 3 rounds, they had some really good offenses too, but people ignore that. But for the majority of his time in New England, that offensive unit was ranked 1, 2, 3, or 4. I think out of 18 years, he has 15 top 6 point per game defenses, and only offenses, and only 2 of them were 6. So the majority of them landed in 1, 2, and 3. There's a few 4 sprinkled in there. So the point is, this Patriots defense is just like it has been over the last decade and a half. They have talent. They're generally opportunistic. Save for that J.C. Jackson drop yesterday, and they mostly rely on an efficient offense. Well, when the offense isn't efficient, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, those issues the Patriots have are magnified. And so, look, do I think the Patriots can go and win a Super Bowl? I saw Arizona in 2008 lose 47-7 to the Patriots and lose 4 of their last 6 games that season. It looked like a team having no business in the playoffs, go to a Super Bowl and be a miracle Roethlisberger to Antonio Holmes catch away from winning that game. So I'm not going to say no. It might be a little bit further away than I thought maybe a couple of weeks ago, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Going in and performing well in the playoffs, I think would be a positive for this team. Anything else beyond that is gravy.
Yeah, I mean, most likely they're going to be on the road in the wild card round unless they win the division. So they could go into Cincinnati and play the Bengals, which would we be surprised if they win at Cincinnati and beat the Bengals? I mean, you'd have a second-year quarterback against the first-year quarterback. Obviously, the second-year quarterback is better than the first-year quarterback. He just is. And they've got a lot of weapons on offense, but, they still are the Bengals, who had some mysterious losses this season as well to the Jets.
And Burrow, as much as we like Burrow, he does tend to have that little gunslinger mentality in him, and that's a type of quarterback that generally the Patriots do.
Yeah, I love him. I mean, I really do. Like, I know Herbert's my heir apparent, but Burrow's right there too.
Did you say heir apparent?
Heir apparent, yeah. Because
okay.
I mean,
all right, just make sure.
Obviously, Justin Herbert has the awesome head of hair.
Yeah.
So that's what's making my leading candidate. But Burrow has good hair, good looking dude. I call him your younger brother Joe Burrow. And he's got more of the attitude of Rodgers than Herbert does. Like he's gotten a little bit of the I'm smarter than everyone. I'm kind of that passive aggressive stuff going on, and when he answers questions, which I like that personality. Herbert seems like kind of a quiet, chill kid, whereas Burrow's got some edge to him. But those two guys, I mean, look at the AFC. I mean, this is why you have to have Mac Jones continue to get better, right? Because if we're starting to look at quarterbacks in the AFC, you've got Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow. I mean, those are four, pretty legit quarterbacks, and they're all young. So that those teams have their quarterback for the next decade. You hope the Patriots have their guy, so he's going to have to continue to get better and better and better.
Yeah, and and look, I have no reason to think that he won't. You know what I mean? And that's where people get lost in quarterback evaluation and knee jerk reactions. It's like to some people, what we see is that's it. This is the final product, and it's like, wait a minute, is there no such thing as growing and development? You know what I mean? Talk about Tom Brady has said this on a number of occasions that look, he was a slow learner. He was kind of a slow developer. You know, give Mac Jones some time. I mean, if we start seeing some of the same issues next year and no progression, then you can start raising some concerns. But to sit here with the team at 9-6, right in the thick of the playoff thing, like they have, like this isn't they're on the fringe of the playoffs. This is a team that is pretty comfortably in a playoff spot with 2 weeks remaining. They could still lose a game and still make the playoffs. Not that we want to lose a game, but the point is this isn't a team that is now just clinging to playoff type. I mean, this is a team that, if they take care of business, they will make the playoffs and have an opportunity to, who knows, John, face the Buffalo Bills again. And look, I know, the narrative is this, but and Max struggled, but he still put up points against this Buffalo defense, which is, if I was Buffalo, a little concerning considering, one of their strengths of their team or the supposed strength of their team is the defense. And you let a quarterback who has gotten a lot of slack the last couple of weeks move the ball up and down the field on top of letting a team very limited at the running back position also run the ball because go ahead.
Did the Patriots abandon the run a little too early yesterday? I mean, they were running the ball incredibly. It felt like every time they ran the ball, they were getting. And I think they averaged 7 yards per. It was never really out of. When they get down 2 scores, I understand that, but they really were ball so effectively.
Yeah, but at the same time too, it's no Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris is coming off, barely made it to play the game because of injury. I don't think big picture wise they were looking to overwork Damian Harris because look, I like Brandon Bolden, but he's not a guy you can really consistently run the ball or do a lot. It's got to be a kind of a boomer bust play with him. Production wise, obviously he has a lot of value outside of running and catching the ball. So I just don't think you can run that same type of game plan. And again, I don't think Bill Belichick and that coaching staff had any intention of running Damian Harris to the ground because the reality of it is we lose this game, but if you lose Damian Harris, that's a much bigger loss than losing this game. So maybe they decided look, we're not going to push it. We got to be able to move the ball down the field, and look, they did. They moved the ball. There were some, again, a couple bad throws by Mac. Unfortunately, the 2 of them turned into interceptions, or one of them did. I think that the interception, obviously, late. It is what it is. It's the end of the game. You huck the ball up. Just unfortunately, just not enough plays. And that's what it came down to for the Patriots because at the end of the day, they were very much still in this game late. And the score obviously made it look a lot worse than what it actually was. But this was not a game that was out of their reach late in the fourth or late in the game itself. So learning experience, you hope, and based on the history of this coaching staff and this team and the success of a lot of the players still on this team, you would think this would be a learning experience because I don't like necessarily playing the what if game. But J.C. Jackson intercepts that pass. You think 26-20 is a great lead for Buffalo? No, I mean that's a huge momentum shift right there, and it just kind of speaks to how close this game really was, as opposed to what the score actually turned out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I just think obviously Josh Allen had a nice game yesterday, playmaker both with his arm and with his legs. But he played really, really well. And, right now Buffalo, I think, is a more talented team than the Patriots. But, shorten that gap up over the next off season with player development as well, especially if your quarterback makes that leap from year one to year two, which is common among first year quarterbacks, right?
Well,
First round pick
to
go
help
from,
to help him help him make that leap, maybe Jerry Hughes can give him another nice big push out of bounds, and it'll help
right.
him make that
Yeah.
leap. Yeah, look, they didn't lose that game because of that play. Like I'm never going to sit there and blame a penalty for a team's loss. I'm also, in the same breath, aren't going to say, well, the penalties didn't mean anything. But let me just go straight. No, I still believe that the Patriots lost this game because of, not because of penalties, but picking up that flag was absolutely atrocious. I mean,
Yeah.
not only did Hughes not touch him until he was out of bounds, you could argue not only that just pushing him alone should have warranted a flag. And then you
Right.
grab the back of the jersey. So, he committed two personal foul penalties, had the flag thrown, and then for whatever reason, the officials came together and decided that it didn't warrant anything. That was awful. And that was a huge shift because right after, and again, this is something that the Patriots got to tighten up because at the end of the day, you got to. David Andrews would agree with me if you saw the video. Trent Brown, running his mouth. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Buffalo probably didn't say something or got in his face or something like that. And then the David Andrews call later, where it was a very blatant late hit on Mac Jones and David Andrews, for whatever reason, got called for taunting, which it was kind of really absurd. But this isn't an issue of the Patriots losing because of penalties. They lost because they didn't execute well. Doesn't mean that these penalties weren't an issue, and certainly not something that leaves you scratching your head a little bit afterwards and wondering how do you screw something up like that? Because look, there's no doubt about it. That was a huge momentum swing in the game. Didn't cost the Patriots the game. It, it's tough to fathom that calls like that could happen or could not happen. But I don't know. Tough day to be an official. Let's just put it that way.
It always feels like it's a tough day to be an
Yeah.
official because I don't think they're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And again, you're talking about 22 large humans moving at a very, very fast pace, and the average play in the NFL is what 4.5, 5 seconds, whatever it may be, and there's players all over the place. It's a tough game to officiate. It really is.
Not that play. Not that
Not
play for
that
that
play.
official who is literally standing right in front of
Right
them,
there.
watching the play unfold. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason,
that
rhyme or reason
that was
for
a-
him to have done that.
and I think sometimes is that a play where if it's Brady or Rogers, the flag stays and the penalty's enforced? Yeah. Sometimes the rookie doesn't get the call, but that's not fair either because, that should have been a penalty. And that was a big momentum play in the game. But, yeah, I mean, officials just are not very good in the sport. They're not consistent. You have some officials, some crews that blow the flags, that throw the flags way too much, and then other ones much less. I mean, I watching a game sometimes when there's 22 penalties is just excruciating. It's like worse than baseball because you see a nice play. Well, it's going to come back because someone may have held someone far away from the ball, so let's enforce that. So it can be frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough, and ideally you don't ever want to learn about the names of the officials, but here we are talking about them every single week, and yeah, that's a tough one for Patriots fans to swallow and certainly accept. But it is what it is, and you can't sit there and blame that on why they lost. There's other reasons why they lost that game. Anyways, let's enough of this. Enough of this. Let's get to the topic at hand, and that is Tom Brady's March, which is and people at home, maybe talking about. Are you one of them?
I might put you on mute and then laugh because I don't want to offend you. I mean, my takeaway is it's very close between the two quarterbacks, Rodgers and Brady.
And I'll give you, and this is what generally a lot of the support for Aaron Rodgers comes from, and this is the observing people's reasons as to why he's the MVP. Touchdown to interception ratio. He played without his top three pass catchers against the Cardinals, which, give me a second, I'll tell you why that is unbelievably false and misleading.
It's three best wide receivers.
Yeah,
Again, he throws to his back. Nope, that's Brady.
His four best pass catchers this season: Randall Cobb, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams. He was missing Devontae Adams. So again, when you have to stretch
I
the
don't know if that's
truth,
true I don't know if that's true anymore because
it was last week. It was last week going into the week.
it's like it's basically Devontae Adams like half the catches and then
Yeah,
everybody else like the other half, which is not bad. Throw to your best guy. I get no problem with that.
which is fine, and no one's but that's the thing, John, and that's where we get to this idea, like, he's getting elevated because he won against the Cardinals. Well, the narrative he was not without his three top pass catchers. It's just not true. Like, he was without Devontae Adams. Great, awesome. I think based on what we saw yesterday, Tom Brady's been without his best pass catcher, and yes, my voice just went to an absurdly high pitch right there, and I did not intend to. Tom Brady's been without his best pass catcher since week 6. Antonio Brown is his best wide receiver. I mean, very clearly. I mean, I've said this, for a while now, John. So this isn't just me reacting to his big game this weekend. I've just always thought that him and Brady just have this. They're the perfect wide receiver. He's the perfect wide receiver for Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's the perfect quarterback for Antonio Brown. If that makes sense. Just the way Antonio Brown plays and sees the game, those two are, again, I think Antonio Brown is clearly his best receiver. It showed last year at the end of the year when he was the leading receiver for the final 5 weeks of the season. It showed in the playoffs, and it showed at the beginning of this year when he was on pace to have probably 1,200 yard season had he not been injured and suspended. So, for as much credit as Rodgers has done playing without his top weapons, and I think people literally just throw that out there just with no actual understanding what that means. Brady's been a significant portion of the season without Rob Gronkowski. He spent a significant portion of the season without Antonio Brown, and even guys like Mike Evans and you remember Chris Godwin, as great of a season as he had. Those first 2 weeks of the season, there were a lot of drops carrying over from that playoff run. Remember that playoff run last year where you just scratched your head like, how is
I pretty much forgot that playoff run, to be honest.
Yeah, I know you have. I think it's been put in the vault, never to be opened again. Not even by a little bit of schnapps. But yeah. So to me, I'm looking at it. Okay, what advantages does Aaron Rodgers have? Well, this isn't just me speaking. This is based on numbers. And people love numbers, so I'm going to give you numbers. Him and Patrick Mahomes share the highest percentage of wide open receivers. This is based on I'm assuming going through watching obviously every snap. These aren't just like putting in a formula thing. These are more watch, observe, record. Him and Patrick Mahomes very clearly have the most advantage when it comes to wide open receivers. I think it's like 35% for Rodgers, 29% for Kansas City or for Patrick Mahomes. So that's an advantage. I'm not saying that makes him a bad
Isn't
quarterback.
that the idea,
No, but again, when we're talking about such a tight race, as we again as we're observing, and some of the things that again go pro Rodgers. Well, if we're going to talk about a tight race, and you're just going to not you, but people are going to bring up interceptions and playing without his top receivers. Well, I'm also going to point out that if you're going to talk about wide openness, Brady's been at a disadvantage. On top of that, and this is the big thing now. This is the big thing. Coming into this weekend, Tom Brady, 27 drops. Aaron Rodgers, 11.
he throws more catches balls.
No, that's not what it is. That is an absurdly huge gap. And just look, and I'm not saying that every one of those drops was a touchdown or not. That's not the point. The game yesterday, Rob Gronkowski normally catches a lot, drops what should be a fairly easy touchdown. It happens. Like, it doesn't mean Rob Gronkowski sucks. It just means it happens. Well, think about not just the total number of the drops, but the fact that Brady's had to deal with 16 more than Aaron Rodgers. That is a significant number of lost yardage. And again, when a good number of those drops
he's thrown about 150 passes than Rodgers too. So in theory, he'll have more drops.
No,
If you're going to say that,
yeah, but
he's also going to have more drops.
yeah, but he has more than double the number of drops. Like this isn't just like we're not arguing. Oh, Brady has 25, Aaron Rodgers has 19. No, that number's insignificant. The difference between 27 and 11, I don't care how many passes you have. And when you want to talk about pass attempts, well, okay, that's my next point. Turnover worthy plays. I know it's not an official metric, and you're not going to find it on a general box score, but it matters, especially when the crux in the foundation of Aaron Rodgers' case for MVP.
My only problem with that is how does it matter if it never happened? It's like
because it's still not a good pass. So when people sit there and tell me that Aaron Rodgers is the MVP because he's only thrown 4 interceptions and Tom Brady's only thrown 11. Well, we can both sit here and accept that there was 4 or 5 drops, like thrown in the hands of the receiver drops that deflected that turned into interception. How is that a bad play against Tom Brady? And if that's Aaron Rodgers' main case for being the MVP,
is he the only guy? Is Brady the only guy that has these interceptions? No one else in the league. 31 other starting.
None of them have. No, I'm not saying that.
But Joe Burrow's had more of those than almost anyone. There was a play a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Jamar Chase, who was 5 yards behind the cornerback, and somehow it turned. He hit him in the hands, and it turned into an interception.
Okay, but these are tracked, and Tom Brady and guys like Patrick Mahomes, and I'm giving Patrick Mahomes credit here, have suffered the most from that. And that's the thing. Aaron Rodgers hasn't. I mean, even think about fumbles. Aaron Rodgers has 4 fumbles, none of them lost. A lot of that is just kind of luck. All right, you get hit, especially a quarterback that fumbles. It's kind of just you know what I'm saying? Like it's either hit from behind or it could be a snap. Yeah, it could just be a mess.
Drops it and you fall on it. So good.
Well, but here's the thing, and you're talking about pass attempts. Coming into last week, and again, I mean, I haven't updated the numbers because I haven't had a chance to look through it. 13 turnover-worthy plays for Tom Brady, 12 for Aaron Rodgers. Based on the number of throws, that puts Tom Brady at a fairly small percentage of turnover-worthy plays. Now, we both sit here and we'll understand and admit that these are 2 of the best quarterbacks at taking care of the football in the league by far. So, we're sitting here, talking about the 2 best at doing this. But the point is, if your case for Aaron Rodgers is primarily based on his touchdown to interception ratio, which is essentially what it is. I mean, for the most part, everyone's main point for Aaron Rodgers for MVP, because he trails in total yards, he trails in total touchdowns. He's, again, been, he leads the 11th ranked offense in the league. Tom Brady has the 2nd. By virtue of Dallas putting up 56 points is the only reason Tampa doesn't have the most points in the league right now. So,
well, don't count, I guess, from Dallas last night, because Tampa Bay has never put up 48 against some teams. Like,
no, that's not the point. That's not the point, John. That's not the point. The point is the significant gap between Tampa's been the entire season, which is the number 1, number 2 offense, to what the Packers are, which is they're a fringe top 10 offense that, based on a lot of grading metrics and numbers, are more of a dominant running team than they are a passing team. And this idea that Aaron Rodgers, because he runs around and he winks into the camera and winces every time he misses a pass because of his big toe, and does.
I'm just not sure how. I don't know how they're 12-3. It must be a minor miracle because the quarterback.
Wait, what are you talking about? Did I say the quarterback suck? No, I did not say that. We're talking about the MVP race, and right now the pom poms out for Aaron Rodgers are, oh my God, he's doing all these things. But when you break, because he's the MVP, and I'm giving you a reason why. Because Aaron Rodgers, if you look at who he's faced, I'm not just making this stuff up. There's metrics. Tom Brady has faced 7 top 10 pass defenses per DVOA, which takes obviously into account more than just yards per game and points per game. A lot of Rodgers fans too, because they realize once you actually get into the context of this conversation, you realize how much of a case there isn't for Aaron Rodgers. So not only that, Tom Brady's faced 7. including yesterday, and they have to play Carolina again. That would make it 8 this season. Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers, 3.
that's
Their total
like a real.
strength of schedule, the Packers against pass defenses and defenses in general, is about 16. Coming into this week, the Bucks, number 2. The Bucks have a worse defense. They have a worse run game. They've faced a tougher pass defensive schedule. Tom Brady's outperformed Aaron Rodgers. The only thing Aaron Rodgers fans and supporters have is the touchdown to interception ratio, and I'm showing you that that is incredibly misleading. First of all, people are basically valuing less interceptions as opposed to more yardage and touchdowns, and more yardage and touchdowns means
How
6
many?
more touchdowns and like nearly 900 more yards. Like,
He's,
we're not
he's
talking
thrown.
about. Go ahead.
He's thrown. He's thrown 4 interceptions. Has Brady not had 3 pick sixes?
I don't care. What's the difference between
Oh,
an
okay.
interception
That's
and a
not a
pick?
big. That's not a big.
John. But see, you're doing exactly what
John.
You're doing exactly what Aaron Rodgers fans do. I'm presenting you very legitimate
Sit
context
here and-
to what this is.
But that's not important. Pick sixes aren't important.
No, but
It's not-
they're both interceptions. They're both interceptions. Pick six is
Given the ball,
pick sixes. I'm going to mute your mic here in a second. Pick sixes are just a matter of luck sometimes. Like, who cares if again, they're both bad plays. The point is, you're talking. The big case for Aaron Rodgers is interceptions because he only has 4. Well, I'm again telling you that based on actual watching of the games and observing and tracking these metrics, they have about the same number of turnover-worthy plays. So there are passes that Aaron Rodgers has thrown that have gone into the hands of the defensive backs that weren't caught. Is that a good pass? No, it's not. Well, Tom Brady's had those too. He's certainly been advantaged by having interceptions dropped. But the problem is he's been more disadvantaged by having dropped passes turn into interceptions. Therefore, things out of his control are somehow hurting his case for MVP when that is the only advantage that Aaron Rodgers really has over Tom Brady. So when people sit here and you say, "Oh, well, what's a pick six versus interception?" Again, if your entire case is touchdown to interception ratio, again, I can shoot that down easily based on again the difficulty in schedules, the turnover-worthy plays that are tracked. They're not just a deflection off a hand. These are things that are like, okay, we've seen Tom Brady throwing interceptions that go into the hands of his receivers and deflect outward. He has more of those than Rodgers has thrown interceptions the entire year. So how is that hurting his case for MVP?
I'm going to fly down to Florida, and on February 10th, which is the Thursday before the Super Bowl, they're having the awards ceremony, and we'll watch the MVP award together.
You're going to fly down to Florida? It's nice in February.
Oh, God. I can't wait to get out of here in February. You kidding me? We'll sit together. We'll go to either at your humble abode or we'll go to a bar or whatever. I don't drink anymore, but I eat. And we'll just watch to see who wins the MVP. And then we're both going to get pissed off because somehow they're going to rebel against both quarterbacks and give it to, like, Cooper Cup or something.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
We're going to put Jonathan, and we're both going to get thrown out of the.
Well, look, if they give it to Jonathan, Jonathan Taylor's great. Like I've seen the numbers out there: 900-yard rushes, 9-0. Great, awesome. Still not good enough.
Every running back, that stat drives me crazy. Of course, if you have 100 yards, most likely you're ahead.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I always like when they go, Dallas is 31-1,
especially a single running back having 100 yards.
Right. So there's certain cause and effect, and that's a big one. Like it's like time of possession. Yeah, you probably win when you have time of possession because the other team can't score. Mike McCarthy used to do this. I think he still does. If we get to 30 rushes, we'll win. No, you won't. If that's the case, then have your first 30 plays of the game be rushes. You're guaranteed to win, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can sit back, sip Mai Tais, and chill for the rest of the game, right?
And eat a lot of barbecue like Mike McCarthy. Standing there on the sideline doing nothing.
Well, unfortunately, John, we're going to have to end this show. It's all right because again, like I said, it's going to be fun to watch and continue to fight the good fight, like I believe I am doing right now. I'm fighting against recency bias and this obsessive love affair with Aaron Rodgers and his co.
One final thing, Ian, when I run for office, which I'm 58 now, it gets kind of late to do that. But when I run for office, You're my campaign manager.
Hey.
I will not lose because I give you credit. You are tough. You're a tough man, and I greatly admire that.
I try to be. I hate being wrong, and hopefully my philosophy is if I
I
talk
have
a bunch
noticed.
of
I haven't
nonsense, people will forget what my actual point is, and then I can never actually be wrong. So it's
I haven't
working out
noticed.
pretty well.
It is absolutely. You're gonna wear everybody out on Twitter.
That's what I'm here for. Stanza.
Yeah.
Remember that.
You take the Rex Ryan ground and pound
Yeah.
to the degree. I'm like, I'm following. I'm just go on Twitter a couple times with Chris, and I go, "There's Ian again."
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, look, the way look, I honestly feel like this isn't an ego thing. I think based on some of the ears that I do have, and some not my personal, but you know what I mean. The people that I do feel like I can make an influence. Like I think, and I've seen this a lot, and I've seen it over the last couple of weeks, John. I've seen like my talking points. They start to get magnified a little bit. More people are starting to use them. The more people start to use them, the more that it's going to reach voters, and maybe those that are on the fringe will sit there and say, "Wow, I didn't realize that Tom Brady is at such a disadvantage when it comes to drops." And then they'll be like, you know what? I was on the edge. I'm going to look more into this, and then there you go. That's why I do it, John. That's why I will continue to do it. And that's why I will be louder tomorrow when we get on the air.
oh my God, I'll also wear earplugs instead of my headset. But you know what it is? You just wear everybody out. They just give up at that. Enough is enough.
Hey,
I'm okay.
I can do this all day. Just like Captain America. I can do this all day, folks. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.